what if you put that stuff on Amazon? And they were like, I don't know, it might cannibalize sales. And we were like, why don't you try it? They put it on Amazon, and within a year, 80 million pounds in sales on Amazon in their first year. The next thing would be pivoting. So when companies start, like PayPal started, and PayPal, I believe, started as an application for BlackBerries. And Elon Musk came in and said, what if instead we do something different? And they went through a few different pivots and ultimately ended up with, what if we allow people to do a whole bunch of complicated financial things on a financial hub? And then once they launched the financial hub, they saw that one thing in particular was very, very appealing to people. People really liked the feature that allowed them to pay by email. And so they ultimately pivoted the final pivot into allowing people to pay by email. What a lot of people don't know is that PayPal continues to be pretty innovative, and they have recently pivoted into a thing saying, PayPal doesn't necessarily appeal to millennials. We want to appeal to millennials. We need a millennial-friendly payment service. So they started a thing called Venmo. And Venmo has taken off, and everybody that I know that's friends with my kids who are in that millennial market Venmos people money. Even my wife has friends that go out to dinner, and one person pays the check, and then they all Venmo each other the money for the check, and which ultimately I think the fees that Venmo gets is more than the check, but that's another story. So pivots are really a popular thing, and so I think it's important to think about them and maybe run through an exercise once a year in potential pivots for your business. Another popular pivot was a service called Bourbon that had a photo sharing option that was very popular, and they realized that way more popular than everything else was the photo sharing thing, so they changed the name to Instagram and then sold it to Mark Zuckerberg for a fair amount of money. So looking at the different types of pivots that you can make, one is many products become one. So probably the most famous pivot of this in history would be Steve Jobs. When he came back to Apple, Apple had all of these products. I think they had like 14 different types of computers for 14 different applications. And he said, let's just have an iMac. And then he went out from there. Another one would be zooming out. One product becomes many products. So you've got one product that has lots of features and maybe serves different groups, and you split that up into several different products so that people aren't overwhelmed. Another would be just technology. So you've got some sort of new technology that can improve your price or performance. Another would be that you're moving between selling a product, having an affiliate model where other people sell your product, or having a marketplace where you put your product out and you also facilitate the sale of lots of other products. So an example of this would be with Digital Marketer, one of the companies that we own. We started with a house product that was an LMS, a learning management software platform, and we went out thinking initially we were going to sell that, and we realized that the cycle times for the enterprises that were going to buy it was quite long, and we said what we really ought to do is change this because it has a lot of features that are really beneficial to the consumer. So instead of it being a house product, let's make it a marketplace. And so now we have content on there from Grant Cardone and JJ Virgin and Tony Robbins and all these other people, so that we make a fee every time that somebody purchases content from some of those well-known people, and the well-known people get a fee for the purchase as well, and we're simply facilitating the transaction on our software platform. Does that make sense? Then channel, changing your distribution channels but not your product. So that could be that as simple as you take the product into a different geographic territory. It could be that you take the product to a different marketing channel, so that you're on Facebook right now. One of our members in our War Room Mastermind was selling products online through infomercials. It was a company called Beachbody, and they had several successful exercise videos and things like that. And they were not selling on Amazon. And we suggested, what if you put that stuff on Amazon? And they were like, I don't know, it might cannibalize sales. And we're like, why don't you try it? They put it on Amazon, and within a year, 80 million pounds in sales on Amazon in their first year. Didn't affect sales through their infomercial products at all. They just hadn't thought about it or tested it, or they had kind of thought about it and then rejected it. So you want to think about, what are the other distribution channels? And when we go through the traffic grid exercise, I'll give you 42 of them that you should try and see, because as I said, you also don't want to be dependent on one particular channel for sales of your product. Value capture would be just a completely new revenue model. So looking at all the different pricing things, exploring how might we bill for our services. Maybe it should be we give away the thing for free and we sell services. Maybe it should be value-based or tiered. Moving between different growth engines. So you might have a viral growth engine like Kylie does for her makeup products. Kylie is all Instagram, all viral. Moving to a paid advertising model from that, or some sort of sticky campaign where you're actually looking to a subscription model and trying to keep people in the model. You might change the customer need so that you tweak the product to solve a more important need. Now, we saw on television here the other day a product called Always Discreet, which is a woman's tampon product, and they were advertising it, the same product with the same name. They were advertising to a specifically different market of older women who have bladder control problems. And so they just took the exact same product and marketed it as bladder control. So there's no difference. They didn't even change the packaging. They just called it Always Discreet. Another example would be Bayer aspirin. Back in the 80s, there was a study that was done that aspirin could reduce, when taken in low doses over a period of time regularly, could reduce the likelihood of heart attacks. And so Bayer, without changing the aspirin at all, because it was the exact same aspirin they were selling just as aspirin, created a product that was called low-dose aspirin, and then it was advertised as the same thing that reduced heart attacks, clinically proven to reduce the chance of heart attacks, and created a whole new product channel, market, right, use and demo without changing the product at all. So that's another thing to think about. And then customer segment, the same product to a different customer. Or architecture. Are you a high margin, low volume? And I did this as a pivot. I used to practice law, and I had very high margin, low volume business in doing annual minutes for corporations. So we would form corporations or limited companies for people, and then we would charge a fee to do that, and we'd charge an annual maintenance fee equivalent to about £1,000. But I only had a few thousand of those. And I said, that's kind of cool, but what if I didn't make as much money, but I did a whole lot more business? And so I started a direct mail business where we bought the corporation lists from all of the government agencies that maintained them, and we sent direct mail offers to everyone offering to do the service for about 80% less than attorneys charge. And now we have about 60,000 clients that pay us to do their annual minutes that I only had a couple thousand before, right? And I make a whole lot more money. And by the way, I don't have to give, because it's not a bespoke service, I don't have to give so much attention to it. It's all done through direct mail and software, and I don't ever go there.